Hello, everybody. This is a wonderful day. You know why? Because Into the Server is back. 2022. We're coming at you live. This is Xavier Johnson. I'm joined by the host with the most,
Jesse Broaders, and we're back, season 2. We didn't get canceled yet. Esports at ASU, it's going on. And today we already have a special guest with us in studio as well. Please welcome Tyler Bender.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Going good, man. Going good.
Doing well. I'm getting my booster later.
Hey, there we go.
This
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, these are my last hours of feeling good. So we'll get that going. How has your week been, Tyler? Fellow Cronkite news reporter.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Xavier and I are in the bureau, and we both just got named as the esports reporters for Cronkite Sports this semester. Woo! So that's gonna be fun. Covering everything from ASU esports to hopefully they let us do all the professional stuff as well. I don't know how stingy they are about that. But yeah, crazy week. I mean, school is just starting up again, right? So I think we're all kind of getting back into that flow.
Yeah, I'm excited that you guys got named esports reporters. I wasn't sure when I get to the bureau in a few years how that's gonna be. So.
Oh, dude, from the few conversations I've had with Paula, the director of Cronkite.
Paula's awesome.
Sports.
She is.
Oh my God! Every time I bring up esports, she's like, "Oh yeah, let's do this. Like, this is cool." So, it's a lot of support and definitely all the really good things I've heard about her are 100% true. So I really look forward to getting to, I guess, cover esports in sort of a bigger context, and maybe flex that Cronkite news name a little bit.
Exactly.
Get some access.
Exactly.
Anyway, so we're here talking about League of Legends, ASU esports. Probably no Overwatch this episode for the first time I think ever.
Yeah, there's barely anything going on. The only thing in the last week was Molly getting signed yesterday, but Overwatch is pretty dead right now.
Tyler, do you watch Overwatch, or are you just a
not that much? I used to watch it when Overwatch League first came out. I used to play it too much when the game first came out. It's just once the GOATS meta hit, I was dead. I was done. And I mean that is the case with a lot of people, but I was like, this is not fun anymore, and then I stopped.
It's understandable. That's completely understandable. So you're primarily League, I guess. Just what kind of esports are you into?
Yeah, so I actually kind of got my start into the esports world, I guess you would say, with Melee, Super Smash Bros. Melee, back in high school. Had a lot of friends who liked to play that, go to tournaments with that, started doing some casting for that as well. And then I think around my sophomore or junior year of high school, I had a lot of friends who played League through middle school and stuff. I just never had the computer to run it. Finally got myself a computer to run it, started playing it, fell in love ever since. The idea of it for me was kind of like, look, Smash, especially Melee at the time, is a game that's been so heavily refined to technical skill that if you're not practicing for 7 hours a day, then you're just behind everybody else. But League is a game where there's a meta that's always constantly evolving, and the principles of spacing and positioning are the same. That's what I loved about Smash was the fact that you don't only have to focus on how good you're playing, but you also have to focus on how well your opponent plays. And League's kind of the same thing. You have to react and respond accordingly. It's like, what's it called? I know a fighting game like Smash or Street Fighter isn't technically resembles an MMA or a martial art, but it takes principles, right? League actually has a lot of the same principles, just you're looking at it from a different angle and you're using different movements, and sometimes spells hit you from halfway across the map, so it's a little bit different in that sense. But that idea and that idea of spacing is kind of what got me hooked.
Yeah, League has always felt sort of like I feel like I've always compared to basketball or soccer.
Yeah.
Because it's weird in the sense where there are set plays and you can really set things up, but then there are other situations where you just kind of got to improv it.
Right. And I was a baseball player growing up too, and I think one of the things that set baseball apart for me than other sports is you don't necessarily have to be the biggest guy on the field for baseball. You don't have to be the best guy on the field for baseball. You can be the smartest guy and still beat people. And League's the same way. You don't have to be the most mechanically skilled, but the macro and the knowledge of your game, if you're really, really good at that, you can carry games through that way. It's why I'm a support main, because I don't have to focus on having hands. I can literally just go brain dead and play a champion that has 2 useful abilities and then just run around the map and help my team get advantages through smart decision making rather than mechanical skill.
Yeah, I play a lot of Seraphine support. That's like my go-to.
Very
And
good, except there's one rule when you play Seraphine,
What's the rule?
and that's anytime that she sings as like her character voice line, you have to mimic it. And anytime you ult, you also have to do that yeah sound that she does. You have to say
Xavier.
that.
You have to do it.
Otherwise, you're not actually playing Seraphine. You're just happen to have Seraphine on the screen.
You know, maybe maybe I'll apply that tonight and see if I can rank up. But I agree, like being able to, I can't play like a Zed. My Yone's trash. But Seraphine, if I just time one good R,
That's all that matters.
you can help the team win, and I think that's kind of like a really cool aspect of League. So you said you play support. I guess what are some of your main champions?
My main support, I guess you could say I'm the best on, is probably Alistar. But I'm also very good at Leona. Okay, this is all relative to my skill group. That is, Leona, Nautilus, Braum. I own every champion in the game. That's something that I'm proud of. On only using blue essence. I didn't buy with RP. I didn't spend any money on champions. Skins, that's a different story. I don't want to go into that. But
I think a lot of people have. Right?
yeah. But so I've learned a lot of the champions over the time, and it's always just playing whatever's meta because I like to just try new things. I think if you have to ask me like what's my secret pocket pick though, is Taric. I'm a very underrated Taric player. I think a lot of people don't realize how good that champion actually is, and a very good Taric can turn a game. And I've had some pretty crazy Taric plays before, so.
That's great. Do you ever flex in other lanes, or are you pretty?
Yeah,
pretty solid?
so in ranked I play top, just because it's so hard. At least in like the silver to gold elo to play support. Solo queue, because you're coin flipping whether or not your AD carry is either filled or actually has hands, because they could be queuing bot lane but then just are very terrible. So I don't want to like coin flip that. I want to at least have a chance to have impact on the game. So I play top. Last season I just perma spammed Urgot, which I'm trying not to do because I get very bored playing the same champion over and over. And the part of the problem was that was the only champion I felt comfortable in terms of like really, really, really laning with. But, over the preseason and over just playing a lot of draft picks in general, learned a lot of good champions, picked up a lot of other strong blind picks and laners that I can feel comfortable on. So I've been trying to flex the pool a little bit this season.
And I guess this can lead perfectly into some of the casting you do. I mean, I'm here with two casters.
Yeah.
But how does sort of like your skill in League translate to helping you cast? On what you do?
Actually, I would say it's inverse. I would think that casting actually helps me a little bit better with playing the game. When you cast, you have to constantly be checking everything. You got to be looking at the map. You got to be looking at people's items. Just little micro details that you might want to point out that you see in the game. So I think that's kind of raised my awareness, as well as when you cast, you have to learn, at least at the collegiate level, and even sometimes at the professional level of casting for League of Legends. Yes, you have an analyst, but there really is no clear distinction between the play-by-play, the caster and the analyst, just that the caster is a little bit better at calling a team fight than the analyst is. They roughly have the same knowledge and sometimes even more niche, in-depth knowledge. So I found that becoming a caster, I've had to research the game just a little bit more. I've watched more like coaches and analysts like explain things so I can have that knowledge pool, and that knowledge pool is really kind of translated into the game. Now I feel a little bit more confident when I go to do things. When I'm trying to decide what items to buy, I feel a little bit better. Or when I see someone build a troll item, I know how to counter it and take advantage of the fact that they just trolled. So like, yeah, not losing to Boris is what we call it. You never want to lose to the shopkeeper. Never lose to the shopkeeper.
And I can 100% agree with that. It is like you cast games, it's like, all right, you get a grasp on the meta if you're not playing all the time. I'm stuck in like gold and plat and silver for Overwatch. I'm not very good. But it's like, yeah, you just watch things, and as you said, you pick up on the little things. You keep checking for everything, and yeah, it definitely helps being a caster when you play, just because you check those little things that just a random player that you're playing with just won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of like the most knowledgeable people I know, sort of about League or even Overwatch, aren't like super high level. It's just a lot of studying. And, they accumulate a lot of knowledge. And, yeah, they're not going to be, top-tiered playing against Faker and solo queue. But they're going to be incredibly knowledgeable and be able to understand certain game situations that, I don't think anybody that hasn't put that time studying it would actually understand. It's really cool. So I guess what got you into casting?
I've always kind of wanted to do sports journalism ever since freshman year of high school. So when I started playing Smash and saw that my local scene was doing streams, and they were very, very open, even though it was run by like college kids or even people who have graduated, because Melee's an older game. It's literally the same age as me, or I'm the same age as it. They were just very nice about it, and they're like, high school kid? Sure, go ahead. Jump on. You're a freshman? Why not? Give it a try. And I did pretty decent, I guess, and they let me do some more things. We had a big regional where we invited players, like top players from around the world. So I've got to commentate sets with Amsa, who is historically the #1 player in Japan and top 10 player in the world, best Yoshi main in the world. I got to commentate a set with Bladewise, who is like one of the best players in New England, one of the best peaches in America. Who else was there? S2J, who was top 10 player for a long time. Hugs, top 10 player for a long time. So they gave me more opportunities to try and work with people who were, a lot higher level than what a junior at that point in high school should be doing. So I was like, yeah, casting is really fun. And then when I got here to ASU, found out we had a league team, started communicating with their manager at the time, Ben.
Yep.
And I told him I had this plan. I was like, hey, I kind of want to help like run streams through one of the clubs that I'm doing. He was like, well, I don't think we can do that because we already have our own streams, but we barely run it. Do you want to try? I was like, yes, let's try it. So the first one I ever did for ASU League of Legends was, this is back when they had a C team. So they used to have an A and a B and a C. Now they've consolidated it, call it varsity and development. But this was a C team game. So you're looking at like low to mid plats, maybe in the high plat region. No diamonds though. And I'm solo casting it. And my stream, because my computer is so like not good and my Wi-Fi's in my apartment was like not the best, my stream keeps killing itself like every like 30 seconds. So like you can't even tell what's going on, and like my game's freezing up. And after that, he got me in touch with some of the other league players, and we started having a whole production team now with Jordan and Spencer. Spencer will be on a broadcast with me later today. And now we just kind of get everything going. And yeah, it was kind of my start into league casting, at least.
Solo casting is rough.
It's terrible.
It's horrendous. Like,
It
I
is
can't
bad.
imagine doing it for league because those games can go up to 45 minutes. Like, I can barely do like a 15, 20-minute game where it's like, all right, solo cast, boom, you're done. That's
And
insane.
And League too, not to be like, oh, pity party me, because I think Overwatch. I've tried doing Overwatch, and that is terribly difficult.
They're just two
there's
completely different games to cast.
yeah, and there's 12 people on the screen, and it's always constant action. Like League, at least, towards the later halves of the game.
You know when the fights are gonna be.
Like it's usually like every 5 minutes. There's a downtime, and that's where it gets really hard at solo casting, because you have to try to find a way to fill those 5 minutes with just yourself. Where if there's an analyst or somebody else with you, at least there's a little bit of a conversation, so you can fill those 5 minutes and set up the team fight. And then once the team fight comes, then you can get into it. But it would help too. I think a lot of what makes the professionals and what makes those streams so free flowing is like replays, because that eats up a lot of time.
Yeah.
In between those fights, but we're not at that level yet where we can do replays. We're just a small like group of 3 people who, not to say that we don't have any resources, it's mainly just because like even ASU League as a group themselves don't have that much resources. So it's like we're all just kind of like helping each other and stuff.
Yep.
So it gets a little rough sometimes.
It feels like a lot of I guess just the ethos of esports, and I'm sure both of you could attest to it, is really like getting it out the mud.
Yeah.
And like really about, sort of like the come up. And it's interesting because at least I found, and your Smash experience kind of talks to this, is how sometimes esports can be very flat, where you can be somebody that's new to the scene and doesn't really that's still kind of paying their dues, so to speak, and you're like talking to like a world champion, and some of these barriers that I guess like an NBA might have, where you're probably not going to talk to like Devin Booker just
Right.
like, casually. You might actually talk to like Core JJ casually for some reason, and a lot of these lines kind of end up being flat, and at least for me, that's sort of like the appeal of esports, where it still sort of has that community aspect even at some of the higher levels. Is that something that's kind of true for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of the players in esports, especially in like grassroots communities like Melee and stuff like that, where there wasn't, this was before the time of online competitive matchmaking, where you were forced to go somewhere and interact with other people in person. And if you were mean to them, or you were just generally not a great person, you were gone and you'd never get to play that scene again. So everybody, had the same passion and wanted to share it and made something. I think it's a little bit harder with the larger games today. I mean, it's more so you got people, even in the competitive matchmaking pools, who are just there because they're just having fun, right? And then that sparks the toxicity that we all know and love from our favorite top games. But yeah, that idea of community and for the people who really want to be there, that idea of community is very strong, and it is what kind of blurs the line in between like who's actually the top and who is at the bottom. And I think that blur is what really makes esports so special. Like you said,
it's ever changing.
Exactly. Like you said, you don't get to talk to Devin Booker randomly, right? Like, heck, I want to go interview like Shohei Ohtani, but like that's impossible because like
it's Shohei Ohtani.
Exactly, right? But if I wanted to like reach out on Twitter to like you said, Core JJ, he might actually be willing to talk to me if I say, hey, look, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. Can I get something from you? Maybe I might have to go through media relations after that, but they're less stingy about it,
Yeah, I found that especially with like the FGC.
Yeah.
Because when I got started in esports, it was just sort of on a whim, and I was like, "Oh, I'm interested in this," and I started writing about fighting games, and like, I was shocked by how I could just DM Punk, who's like the biggest Street Fighter player, and
Right.
just be like, "Hey, you want to chat?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Here's my phone number." I'm like, "This is weird, but it's really cool." And especially as you said, with like these smaller scenes, you really get that where it is very much of a community, and like you can go in these people's discords and be like having casual conversations, and it does really flatten the line, and I would say it makes like the people with huge egos even stand out more,
Right.
because it's like it's kind of weird.
Exactly. Man, I would have liked to talk to Punk. Jeez, like you.
Yeah,
That
like
was so
That's crazy. What the
flexing over
heck?
here like that?
Yeah, I like randomly hit him up on Twitter. I was doing this. I never ended up publishing it. But I was working on like this weird like piece right around the announcement of like the League fighting game.
Yeah.
And so I hit up Punk, and I was just sort of like, "Hey, what would you like to see?" Blah blah blah.
I'm still waiting for that, by the way.
It looks so cool.
If that drops and it ends up being anywhere remotely close to like Street Fighter in terms of like how it feels, and it's not an absolute like clunky mess, like I swear I will quit League of Legends and only play that game. I'm a huge fighting game player. It's just having to deal with online and stuff really discourages me from playing games like that, because as much as I'm not technical, I like to be technical, and when I'm dropping frames, like I played a lot of Street Fighter, but it was just like I can't be playing with all this lag. It just tears my soul. So that's why even more props to guys like Punk who can work their way up like that even through all the lag and stuff.
Yeah. Do you play Guilty Gear?
No. I'm not. I haven't really got into a lot of the anime fighters just because of how crazy they are. Like I tried to play Dragon Ball Z, and that was rough. And then I tried to play BlazBlue Cross Tag, and that was rough. So when you're getting smashed by Ruby Gordeau like every game, and you're just trying to play hide, it was not fun. So I was like, you know what? I'll just stick to Street Fighter. I'll just stick to one character, not have to worry about watching out for assists and stuff like MVC, and like I'll just rock with one guy and just keep it easy. But yeah.
I remember playing, I think it was like either Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter with my brother. He was like, "Oh, you want to try Dragon Ball FighterZ?" I'm like, "Sure, why not? It'd probably be the same." And then he just tag teams. I'm just like, dude, really? No, I'm never playing this. I haven't played it in like 3 years because I'm like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
It's such a different game than like a Street Fighter, because Street Fighter is like, oh, you have your combos, but you know what to expect. You know what your opponent can do.
Right.
Dragon Ball FighterZ is like, there's so much that's
And
going
it's
on.
and it's not one of those games too where like one hit leads to your demise. Like if you get hit one time in Dragon Ball Z, or even like MVC2, like if the opponent knows what they're doing, you're done.
Yeah.
Like your character's gone. And now you're at a disadvantage already. Whereas in like Street Fighter and Smash for that matter too, well, not Melee in certain cases, but Smash for the most part is you have to win multiple neutral exchanges, and that idea of winning that neutral exchange, but then extending your advantage stage is what is really attracting. Like Melee is so fun because, yeah, maybe you got some guy playing like Jigglypuff and you get up throw arrested and you're dead, or you got a guy playing Sheik and then you just get chain grabbed or tech chased. Tech chasing is a little bit harder, right? That's actual mechanical skill, but that idea that you can win the neutral and now you're an advantage, but how do you extend that? Yeah. And I think part of the problem with Ultimate is that a lot of the top tier characters have too much range, that a lot of the characters that I find fun to play, at least like Terry, or some of like the low range characters, that once they're in a disadvantage against all the top tiers, it's just so hard to get out of it, because controlling when people land in that game is so ridiculously easy that it's rough overall.
So I guess just one more kind of question about just like general esports. But I guess what do you see for like the next couple of years for you? Just sort of, do you continue? Do you kind of want to continue diving more into esports and trying to make this a career? I guess just sort of what's your goals with it?
Yeah, I've kind of thought about this a lot, just because coming into the school, I was very baseball, and I still am. Baseball has been the one thing my entire life that I live for. But with all these opportunities and all this that I've created through esports, realizing this niche and realizing that, there's 3 of us sitting in this room today, and we're like the only 3 in Crown Kite who really cover esports. There's not that many people outside of the people that we know in our inner circle. Jordan just graduated. Spencer covers it a little bit too, that really actually understand what's going on in the world, and realizing like, look, if I want to make opportunities in the school, everybody here knows baseball, everybody here knows football, but not a lot of us know esports. And if I need to make opportunities for myself that way, then I'll have to do it. And I've always kind of seen it as something like, if I have the opportunity to continue something in esports, I want to, whether that's casting. I am looking next year to apply to see if I can do like CLOL games, like the national tournaments and stuff like that.
That'd be sick.
Work with Riot in some aspect. I don't know. But it's not something that I think I would like to make an entire career around, just because I have a dream of doing sports documentaries. So I guess you can bring esports into that as well in some of them. But now I'm not even really focused on one specific sport, more as I'm just focused telling stories. So if esports is a place that I'm allowed to tell stories in, then by all means I could work in this industry and just be happy. But it's definitely not something I can see myself being like a Captain Flowers. Like I'm just only dedicated to League of Legends. I kind of want to expand and work in all kinds of fields rather than just be locked and tied down to one.
Speaking of your future, you're casting tonight, right?
Yeah, so ASU League of Legends, they start their CLOL season, College League of Legends season today. 3:30 Arizona time is when we'll be going live. And I mentioned this to you guys. Week 1 is very fun in CLOL, for the top teams, that is. The way that it works in a lot of these divisions is where it's not split into conferences like how normal collegiate esports is. It's split into regions. So ASU is in the West region. Top 6 teams of like X amount of teams make it into the playoff to then qualify for nationals. But it's all Swiss bracket, and you only play 6 games. So there's like 38 something teams in the West, but then you only play 6 of those teams. So seeding and stuff really determines like who you play against. So ASU, I think, is seeded 2nd in the West right now, going into the season. So that means that they get to play a really, really crappy team this first week. So what a lot of these top teams do is the first 2 weeks is called speed run week, because the way the tiebreakers work in CLOL is fastest average game time is the tiebreaker. So they do speed runs. So this week is going to be so fun to watch and cast as if you're from the side of a team who is a very, very strong team, because you're going to see them throw together comps that are just all about, like, they're not even going to try and like get kills. It's just all about taking objectives and just pushing turrets and seeing how fast you can end the game. I watched ASU. I think the fastest game I casted from them was like 16 minutes, which if you play League of Legends is 1 minute
crazy.
faster than what the FF timer is. So like, it's insane. I've seen some of the CLOL games last less than 15 minutes just because some of the teams are so incredible and they know what they're doing, and it's going to be so fun. I honestly think that they play in series, so it's best 2 out of 3. I honestly think that we're going to be casting for all of 30 minutes, 45 minutes today, when usually sometimes I block out like 3 hours for this. It's going to be less than an hour. I can almost guarantee it.
You know, games done quick just got done. This is the perfect continuation if you're into speedrunning.
Yeah.
You can check out the stream. Want to get into some professional?
Some LCS lock-in tournament going on.
Oh, geez.
EG, Cloud9 still undefeated.
Yeah.
And I guess, what are your thoughts, I guess, on... We'll stick on them 2 initially here.
Okay, let's start with EG. I think EG has looked really well. Inspired, best jungler in EU, just got brought over, and he's been doing very, very, very well. Jojo Poon, I forget how you pronounce it. Some people say Jojo Poon, some people say Jojo Poon. He's actually a very, very underrated mid laner. He's been kind of floating in the academy scene for a while now under Dignitas, and he's gotten to see a little bit of play. And I think what's so good about him is he is very, very good on control mages that setup inspired very
16, he's ridiculous. So
he's crazy.
I'm very curious to see where that's going to go. And like we talked about EG, we talked about Cloud9. I guess we'll talk about Golden Guardians a little bit because we have
talk about the
Mr. Xavier Johnson
team,
here. Ryoma comes over from 100 Thieves. Iconic is still around. I don't know a ton about the rest of their players. I'm not going to lie. Stixay, Chime, and Tony Top. So I guess I'll have to rely on you, Mr. Tyler.
Yeah. Tony Top has been a guy who's been circulating in Academy for a while now. He's not my favorite top laner. If I had to compare him to anything, he's like your 369s and your Bwippos in terms of how aggressive he likes to play. The problem is he doesn't really back it up. And what I find hilarious is that Golden Guardians brings in Niles and Iconic, both from Maryville, both top prospects coming out of scouting grounds. Niles probably one of the better NA talents that has been produced recently. They shove Niles to a starting job way too early. He gets permacamped every game, just loses. They bench him for Licorice, which was weird.
It was such a weird move.
Then he leaves Golden Guardians, announces his retirement. Now he's playing in Proving Grounds with Maryville just one last time because that's all his friends. And then I'm pretty sure after that he's going to be done. He's getting married, so he just kind of wants to live like a normal life, is what he says.
Leaving esports, which has been...
But I think that that whole stint with Golden Guardians kind of crushed his confidence because not his fault. He was getting permaflamed for no reason because everyone's like, oh, Niles is going to be the savior of this team, blah, 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 blah. But what they realized is, guys, no one on this team is good except for Niles. Let's just permacamp him and make sure he can't play the game. And then they lost because they were drafting for him. So I feel bad for the guy. That's kind of a failure more so on Golden Guardians management and coaching staff rather than the players themselves. The players that year were okay. Iconic is a pretty good jungler, in my opinion. Ryoma is probably one of the most mid laners in LCS. I don't think he deserves a starting job. There are some better mid laners in the academy circuit right now that I think could beat him out. Stixay, I guess is the core of this team, I would say, because he's the veteran. He kind of knows. Chime is very I'm not too big on Chime. I mean, he's an okay support on the champions that are OP, but outside of that, he doesn't really bring a lot to a team. Stixay is just a liability in terms of his positioning, so I do feel bad for the guy sometimes. Like, his AD carry is just in no man's land, and he's like engaging, and his AD carry is like also engaging with him, and you're like, dude, you're supposed to be like, at a range, not on top of their tank. So I feel bad for him sometimes. And I it sucks because this is an organization that has all the means to do well. It's just poorly managed. And I think this is not just a Golden Guardians problem specifically. I think this is a problem with all of esports right now. You have a lot of team owners who aren't, they're invested in esports, yes, and they're invested in the business that's brought about that, but they're not invested in each individual game. So each individual game doesn't get the love that it deserves. And you get these guys who are making moves that are just outlandish. Like, at least, let's take baseball, for example. Yeah, you can get your owners that don't know jack about the sport. But at the end of the day, it's the general manager who gets to decide who they pick up. And yes, sometimes you have a clueless general manager. But then at the end of the day, it's the manager's job to choose who plays. It's not how kind of esports work. These owners have a lot of power. And if they really don't want someone to play, they won't play. And the owners are the ones who really get to choose who they pick up too. There's no liaison. There's no general manager and then the owner. Whereas like in traditional sports, a general manager says, I want this guy. Can you give me the money? The owner is the one who's like, I want you. Here's what I'm willing to give you. And there's a lot of misjudgment of talent sometimes where they either take a guy who they think is good, who's really not, or they take guys who are good, and when they don't succeed, because that's just how sports usually go for a little bit, you have to have that growing period, they give up on them entirely. Like Sven, for instance, he got benched for the first couple weeks of the summer split, which made absolutely no sense because Cloud9 had just come off of winning the spring split with Sven, and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, Sven, we're going to bench you. What? Like, why? Like who is making these decisions? So it's not just a Golden Guardians problem. I think it's an all esports problem right now.
Yeah, and it feels like especially you said with owners, like it's very rare you're gonna get somebody like Hex, who like from Optic is like pretty good owner, good face of the company, and like and sort of
he doesn't make dumb decisions.
His reasonings too.
Right.
And in a lot of esports, you don't get that explanation. If we go to a Suns game and Miles Bridges ain't playing, we're going to hear from Monty Williams about why Miles Bridges ain't playing.
Yeah.
And we're going to get some kind of explanation, even if it's just like, he wasn't feeling well or he wasn't producing right. But in esports, like, you do get those weird situations where it's like, all right, explain yourself, please. But you don't get that from coaches.
Because they don't know.
Yeah.
Because we kind of had that during Worlds as well with Fnatic. I can't remember what the player's name was.
I wanted to talk about that. Upset. Yeah, so
that's horrific.
So that's more just he clearly had some family issues that were going on that he, for better or for worse, doesn't want to discuss. So that you have to respect. It's just more so on the team side, the way his team responded. Adam and Blippo. So week 1, first game that Fnatic plays LCS with Upset back, Adam, their top laner at the time, he's now playing for BDS, literally permacamped Upset. Adam is known as a top laner who will play aggressive in his lane until he loses, and then when he loses, will just not go back to his lane. He'll just roam around the map for no reason. It's really irritating to deal with. Or even if he's winning his lane, he'll just leave. Like he's like, I pushed a wave. Okay, I'm gone. I can take a back here. Nah, let me just go roam mid for no reason. Oh, my wave is in the middle. No, I'm not going to go back to it. Screw CS. I'm just going to go to the mid lane. He literally just permacamped Upset and was flaming him a lot, like pre-game lobby and stuff. It's very bad drama that should not exist because this guy clearly had something very terrible to him happen. And yes, I get it. It's right before Worlds. Fnatic had just come off of a miracle run in their tournament. spirits were high, and then your AD carry leaves without telling you anything and won't explain himself. But from what I understood, there was more drama before that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of brewing, and that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But yeah, I kind of get it, but at the same time, like there's just a lot of flame for no reason there.
And that's we talked about it earlier, like the toxicity of esports. I don't think it's going away, even though we all wish it does.
Yeah.
But,
Speaking of the LEC, I do want to ask, why does Team Vitality suck? Because they're a super team.
You know what? That's
they're struggling.
a great question, and I think many people have tried to answer it in many different ways. My take on it right now is they don't understand the win con, or the problem is they're switching the win con too much. I think this is a meta that doesn't really allow Selfmade to play the way he would like to play, and Perks, while he's still a great player, is not the same Perks from before. And because Perks, the reason why he didn't really work with Cloud9 is Perks' style was G2 made.